Good evening. I'd like to call the Tuesday, April 18th, 6 p.m. school board meeting to order. At this time, I would like you to stand for the presentations of colors by the Flagler Palm Coast ROTC First Lieutenant Wyatt Brown, Second Lieutenant Carter Wilson, and Second Lieutenant Denise Gonzalez. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kind of skipped silent, so let's have a moment of silence. Thank you, and be seated. Oh, yep. My head's in. Okay, now we can retire. Ready, national anthem. We don't have to sing this time.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
All right, we can retire the colors now. Thank you, and be seated. We're going to start with roll call all the way down the other end.
Roy Mara Lewis, present.
Isabella Tigi, present. Christy Chong.
Will Furry, present.
Sally Hunt.
Colleen Conklin, present.
Cheryl Macero.
Kathy Middlestat.
All right. First on the agenda, under special announcements, are proclamations. We have also resolutions and a legislative update. Ms. Conklin, do you have any legislative update you'd like to share at this time?
I just had the one I gave upstairs.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to start tonight with 2.02, which is the autism acceptance. If we could have the guests that are here, that would be, I don't have it here. Dr. Halliday, Eric Fioris, to please come to the speaker. And it is the founder of Vincent's Clubhouse.
We got all the Vincent Clubhouse in the house.
Right, I don't see Dr. Halliday here, so are you prepared to read the proclamation for us?
I certainly can.
That would be wonderful.
So just read through the whole thing?
Yes?
Okay. A proclamation of the Flagler County School Board recognizing April as National Autism Acceptance Month. Whereas Autism Acceptance Month, previously named Autism Awareness Month, in April aims to celebrate and promote acceptance for the condition that occurs in 1 of every 54 children as of 2020 in the United States. And whereas autism, a complex developmental condition affecting the patient's ability to interact, communicate, and progress, has not one but many subtypes. First held in the year 1972 by the Autism Society, Autism Acceptance Month emphasizes the need for public awareness to promote acceptance, celebrate the differences, and be more inclusive towards autistic individuals around us. And whereas every April, the Autism Society works to build an inclusive community where autistic individuals are embraced and supported to achieve the highest quality of life possible. And whereas the Autism Society was founded in 1965 by Bernard Rimland, it is driven by the fact that autism is the fastest growing developmental disability in the world. The Autism Society hosted one of its first nationwide efforts in an awareness campaign called the National Autistic Children's Week in 1972, which subsequently evolved into the Autism Awareness Month, earmarked in April. And
It was out there. Whereas in 2021, Autism Awareness Month was renamed Autism Acceptance Month to foster acceptance and ignite change. The Autism Society deeply understands the need to foster awareness and acceptance to ignite change and a healthier lifestyle through improved opportunities for people with autism. The organization caters to more than 600,000 people living under the autism onslaught, using tools like community partnership with organizations, digital and print resources, along with events and referrals to spark empathy and inclusivity. And
whereas with the autism diagnosis rate increasing fast, we take these 30 days of April to celebrate the differences, learn more about, and empower autistic individuals. And
whereas in Flagler schools, the number of students served under the IDEA classification of autism spectrum disorder has gone from 199 students in 2018-19 to 253 students in 2022-23.
now therefore it be proclaimed that the School Board of Flagler County does hereby join the nation in recognizing April 2023 as National Autism Acceptance Month, and as a symbol of our commitment to creating a culture of disability awareness and inclusion for all members of our community.
Thank you. Is there anything you two would like to share?
We do have an event coming up.
Yes. Tell us
Yes.
about the clubhouse.
So Vincent's Clubhouse is a not-for-profit organization here very local to Flagler County that was founded in 2016 for children and young adults with autism and other special needs. We host support groups, advocacy programs, summer camps, social events, and other different events all throughout the year for children and young adults in our county. This weekend, April 22nd, from 11 to 3, is Flagler County's first Autism Awareness Festival and Resource Fair that will be held at Town Center. And we're hoping to have the whole community come out and recognize that we have a very diverse community, that people with disabilities in our community deserve acceptance and inclusion. And myself, and as well as the rest of the team of Vincent's Clubhouse, will never stop fighting for and stop advocating for people with disabilities in Flagler County.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, you may, Dr.
Erica,
Bauer.
I just want to say I've watched you grow this organization, and I want to thank you for filling a gap in services and for opportunities for our students and families with autism. You've done an amazing job with Vincent's Clubhouse.
Thank you.
Great job.
Okay.
Well, you got everybody here in really cool shirts. Let's do a picture with them.
Yeah, can we get a picture of everybody that's wearing a Vincent Clubhouse
And even
shirt
if you're
and
not,
Dr.
it's
Holliday?
okay. Get in the middle.
That's all right, Jason will tell you.
Front row, move over a little bit.
Yeah, like cockeyed here.
That way, you got it. Perfect.
Big orange guy in the middle.
All right, here we go. In 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Coming, cheer coming. All right, we have a second proclamation, 2.03, Water Safety Month. Is Jim Caggiani, is that right?
Looks like he's making his.
Caggiani. Okay,
Thank you.
welcome.
Hi, I'm one of the co-founders of WaterSafe, and we will talk about that after we read this. Thank you. Whereas, this is a proclamation by Governor DeSantis, whereas swimming and aquatic safety-related activities contribute to the good physical and mental health and enhance the quality of life for all Floridians and visitors. And whereas education in water safety helps prevent drowning and water-related injuries. And whereas with 18 miles of beach within Flagler County, plus hundreds of private pools, lakes, canals, hotel pools, and the danger of drowning is everywhere. And whereas WaterSafe, founded in 2016 as a community response to child drowning in our community, has offered free swim lessons and scholarships to local children. And whereas more than 500 children have completed swim lessons at the Belterre Swim and Racket Club since the program's inception. And whereas Flagler County is fortunate to have another resource for swimming lessons in Aquafin to partner with WaterSafe. And whereas it is important for everyone, including children, parents, and caregivers, to be aware of water safety rules and programs in order to prevent drownings and recreational water-related injuries. And whereas Water Safety Month in Florida is an opportunity to promote water safety and provide education in the prevention of recreational water-related injuries, illnesses, and deaths. Therefore, now it be proclaimed that the school board in Flagler County does hereby join the nation in recognizing May 2023 as National Water Safety Month as a symbol of our commitment to the creating a culture of disability awareness and inclusion for all members of our community. Dated the 18th day of April, 2023.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have an opportunity to comment?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. WaterSafe was started in April of 2016. So this is the 7th year of WaterSafe. It is a 501c3 charity. This year's that WaterSafe event that I was showing you a poster of is an annual free event that serves the community of Flagler County. It was started with the cooperation of your pool supervisor as one of our board members, myself, Dr. McCabe, who is the medical director for Flagler County Emergency Services. And we have been successful, as was mentioned, over 500 kids have gotten the swim lessons. But I also want to emphasize that your involvement also brings income to the pool that you are deciding the fate of. We depend on that pool to bring our free swim lessons that we pay the pool for providing. So it is a very important thing that I would hope you recognize in your decisions about the Belterre Swim and Racket Club. And I thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one more proclamation, and it's the School Library Month proclamation. And I'm going to ask my colleagues up here to assist me with the reading of this. We'll start with Ms. Chung, and if each of you would read two items.
Whereas April 2023 has been designated the 38th Annual National School Library Month, and whereas school libraries provide materials for teachers and students that will encourage growth and knowledge, and
Whereas school libraries provide materials that will develop literacy skills, culture awareness, aesthetic appreciation, and ethical standards. And whereas school libraries provide materials that reflect the ideas and beliefs of different religions, religious, social, political, historical, and ethnic groups and their contributions to the American and world heritage and culture, and
Whereas school libraries provide access to both physical and digital books to encourage children to read for pleasure, and whereas school libraries provide materials to meet individual needs, varied interests, abilities, socioeconomic backgrounds, and maturity levels of the students served, and
Whereas school libraries serve as positive environments for all students to access and engage with a well-managed library that provides for free expression and access to ideas, and whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promoting the physical, social, and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And
Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the School Board of Flagler County, Florida, that we do hereby recognize April 2023 as School Library Month and urge all citizens to recognize the important role our school libraries play in the education of our community children. Dated this 18th day of April 2023. All right, we're going down now to 3.01, Superintendent Middlestat, do you have a spotlight to share?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, just kind of want to put a spotlight on our communication goal. Communication is aligned with our guiding principle, where we are trying to ensure that we're trusting and respecting for everyone. And part of what we do each year is we launch a parent community survey so we can gather input back to determine how we're doing, and so we can add this to our strategies for next year. So I want to highlight two things that we have notated in the community results that came back to us recently. One is a positive trend in increases with our social media outreach when we're talking about engaging more community members and families and listening to what they have to share. The other part of that survey was that our families are very satisfied with the information that our schools are sharing, but more importantly, that they can in turn share their ideas back to our school leaders, and so we can make sure that we're using that information going forward to continue to grow. One of the areas for consideration for next year is to think about how we could develop a strategy around creating a central landing page. Right now, there are so many different ways to distribute information and receive information that our parents are asking us for consideration of one central landing page, and then from there you offshoot more information. So just things, board, as you do your workshop this summer and are considering strategies for the communication goal next year, things to consider, and that full report Mr. Wheeler shared with each of you previously. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Looking at the minutes, item 4, are there any changes or corrections? Seeing none, then we'll consider them being approved. Any additions or changes to the agenda?
I have none, Madam Chair.
Okay. Then we're on to number 6, public comment.
The first public comment is Elizabeth Diaz, and she's speaking regarding agenda item 20.02, concerns facing Flagler schools.
Good evening, Board Chair, Ms. Massaro, School Board, and Superintendent Middlestat. My name is Elizabeth Diaz, proud president of the Flagler County Educators Association, middle school teacher, and my most prestigious achievement, the proud mama of 2 beautiful boys that attend our Flagler County schools. I will not sit here today and criticize or question your recent vote to non-reappoint Superintendent Middlestat. Though motives and timeline are concerning and have all Flagler school employees questioning our own job security and the integrity of some of our school board members, you have all earned your position, been voted in by the people you represent, and are entitled to your own vote. I can only speak from my own experience and say with conviction that every interaction that I've had with Superintendent Middlestat has been positive and uplifting. When I stepped into the role of president of FCA, I was immediately contacted by Ms. Middlestat to have our first meeting. From that point, not only was I able to express the concerns and bring the perspective of our teachers to light, we had a seat at the table. This year, we brought together our teams for the most collaborative bargaining sessions to build a strong contract that I was so proud to sign my name next to that of Assistant Superintendent Ms. LaShaka Moore. A contract we could all stand behind. I was humbled at the invitation and opportunity to present the contract changes to you all, something that is unprecedented in the union world. Our goal of establishing and maintaining a collaborative relationship remains and is the key to our success as an organization. I hope we can be the example around the state of how effective working together is towards our common goal, doing what's best for our students. Under Ms. Middlestad, all instructional staff were introduced to the Capturing Kids' Heart initiative. That's been the most influential and worthwhile professional development in my career. It gave instructors the tools to build their classroom management skills and establish norms in their classroom. Our social contracts hang proudly in my classroom as the agreement we've established to ensure inviting and respectful learning environments. I applaud Ms. Middlestat for her professionalism and grace as she faced so many challenges. She has served Flagler well. I want to remind you of the guiding principles of Flagler County School District. Children first, trust and respect for all, empower others, teamwork, excellence, quality, and consistency, commitment to individual needs, and get to yes. The only ask I have of you for the future and sustainability of Flagler County Schools is to truly live by the guiding principles and those of safety and trust. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, safety is the first tier and the basis of all fundamental needs of humans. We cannot grow as individuals or expect our students to grow if their basic needs are not met, and teachers simply cannot teach. This extends beyond the classroom. Teachers need to feel safe in bringing issues to their leaders without the fear of retaliation or non-reappointment. Safety in schools is a non-negotiable and must be the top priority. I sit back at times and can't help but question the paradox that exists in the school system. I'm trusted to protect our students, care for them like they were my own, and even take a bullet for them or ward off an intruder. But I'm not trusted to choose the appropriate curriculum or books for my class. Books being banned for inappropriate subject matter, but our students walk around with cell phones with instant access to everything we're trying to keep away from them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So that is it for the agenda items. The rest are non-agenda.
Okay. All right. Before we begin the next section for consent, I just would like to explain that this will go rather rapidly because we've already discussed this at previous workshops, and we won't be discussing, I don't expect that at this point, just approvals. So we're going to start with resource and supports. That's 701 to 707. Are there any questions?
708.
708 on the next page. Got it.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, I have a move approval from Ms. Conklin and a second from Mr. Ferry. All those, any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And it passes unanimously. Academic services, 901 to 902. Can I have a motion?
Move approval.
Ms. Conklin, second.
Second.
Mr. Ferry, any discussion? Seeing none, I have a motion from Ms. Conklin and a second from Mr. Ferry to approve 901 and 902. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Moves forward. All right, number 10, operational services, 1001 and 1002. Can I get a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Dr. Conklin and a second from Ms. Chong. Is there any conversation or discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
all right, aye. All those opposed? All right, so the motion passes unanimously. And the last one is number 11, which is the human resource. 1101, request board approval for personnel items. A motion?
Move to approve.
Chong, second.
Second.
Mr. Ferry. All right, I have a first from Ms. Chong and a second from Mr. Ferry to approve 1101. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay. That concludes our consent items for this evening. I'm going down now to action items. We're going to start with academic service. It is 1601, renewal of contract for Imagine School at Town Center.
Move approval.
I have a motion, I need a second.
Second.
I have a motion from Dr. Conklin and a second from Mr. Ferry. Any conversation? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? It passes unanimously. All right, going down to 18, Human Resource Services. 1801 to 1803. We'll start at 1801. Request board approval for Insurance Committee recommendations. Need a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Anna Chong. I have a first from Mr. Ferry and a second from Ms. Chong. Any conversation or discussion? Any comments? Nothing. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. 1802, request board approval for updated job descriptions. Director of Custodial Services. I need a motion
Move to approve.
and a second.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve from Mr. Furry and a second from Ms. Chong. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? It passes unanimously. 1803, request board approval for updated job description, youth specialist. I need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, I have a first from Ms. Chong and a second from Ms. Hunt. Any conversation? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, we're down to 20, school board attorney action. Ms. Gavin, request to approve changes to policy 526, which is the administration of medication. This is to add actually Narcan on our campuses and how our nurses, our school nurses would handle that. We have a motion to approve with Ms. Conklin. I need a second.
Second.
Any conversation?
But we never need it.
Yes, let's hope we never need it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. 20.02 Superintendent Search. Ms. Gavin.
At this time, Board, I am presenting to you your options for moving forward with your superintendent search. Your decision tonight is whether or not you want to go ahead and either have staff conduct the search, go ahead and use FSBA to conduct the search, or whether you would like to do a letter of interest where FSBA could submit a letter of interest along with other prospective consulting companies.
I'd like to move approval of contracting with Florida School Board Association to conduct the search.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a first to approve FSBA, Florida School Board Association, to conduct the actual search, and a second by Ms. Hunt. Conversation. Mr. Furry.
Thank you. So just so that everybody's clear on this, is that there were two options on the table. One was to put a request for proposal to have basically consultants or headhunter groups come to us and propose their offering to seek out a new superintendent. But at our workshop, we also looked at the option of using FSBA, which is the Florida School Board Association, and the price point that they've quoted us is below the dollar amount that we would have to put out a proposal, request for proposal. So if we choose that, we can do that without going through that process. I have spoken with other board members in other counties that have been using FSBA, and overall, there's no one's perfect, but anything that would have been something that would have been a negative was kind of trivial. So overall, I think that that would be a better choice to go down that road rather than going through the request for proposal.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add? All right, hearing none, then I'll call the question. I have a motion by Dr. Conklin and a second by Ms. Hunt for hiring FSBA to conduct the superintendent search. Call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? It passes unanimously.
Thank you, Chair. I will have a contract drafted and for your approval at the next business meeting.
Okay, all right. We're on to old business. Is there any old business, board?
Actually, I got a request from a citizen who would like for us to workshop our book policy.
Anybody would like to have any conversation with that?
Specifically, the request was an appeal process at the district level.
Okay, so before we can have any conversation, I need a motion.
What? I need some more info.
No, this is just for consensus. Is there consensus of 3
Yeah.
board members who are interested in having a workshop on our current book policy with respect to the appeal? If we've got 3 members, we will place it on the information workshop.
Yeah.
Just to review the policy.
The current policy, yes, that would be I'm assuming we're talking about media, or is it in?
Media,
Medias.
book, media.
Is it the book challenge process, or is it the?
It's the process.
Okay.
The request I got from a constituent was about the process.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'd be worth taking a look at that.
I agree. We need to make some updates, I think.
It's been in for 1 year. I mean, we were all floating with not knowing what we needed with the major changes, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, that's a yes. We have a consensus.
Do we have a consensus of who you would like? Do you want some media specialists there, or, I mean, or just you all
We'll
talking
just have a
amongst
discussion
yourselves?
about the
Okay.
process.
Thank you.
Any other old business? Mr.
Would that be
Ms. Hunt?
oh, please.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up some discussion here. This is an unfortunate thing that I have to bring up here, but it has to be addressed. This is in regards to the conduct of our board chair after the last vote for the non-renewal of the superintendent. And it is clear that some of the comments that you made about your fellow board members were unacceptable and divisive and not true. And saying things like, we don't have the best interest of Flagler schools, that you've lost trust in us, is unacceptable for a board chair to communicate that. I'll remind you that in our procedure manual, one, you're to preside over all board meetings following Robert's Rules of Order, and after the last meeting, you adjourned it before you allowed anybody to have closing comment. Secondly, be responsible for promoting a cooperative team atmosphere among the superintendent, board members, board attorney, and the board office staff. That clearly does not fit with your comments. Also, set aside personal views when speaking or answering correspondence on behalf of the board. So if it is true that you've lost trust in us, Chair Massaro, when we were elected, we weren't elected to work for you. As a matter of fact, I think that after those comments, that you need to work on regaining the trust of all the thousands of people that voted out for us to make that decision. Does anybody else have anything to add to this, these comments here?
I had added things in my closing comments, but notes. I believe you set a precedent for the future of our board and how we choose to treat each other going forward. I've lost confidence in you as well. I thought we were off to a great start. It's not okay to be so divisive just because the vote did not go your way. I find this to be unprofessional and a form of an intimidation and control that I will not tolerate. And I think that we should possibly consider that there could be consequences for that.
Anybody else?
Well, since I'm included in this, I will share. Of course, I have been really. I don't know what my verb is here. Certainly disappointed at the almost campaign to discredit and disparage. I'm just going to speak for myself. My character. I have a tremendous background for this role. Liz, I will tell you, I worked my guts out, me and my family, to earn this seat because I care so much. There has been this narrative put out there, and just so that everybody knows how it works, you have someone who finds a piece of information, if it's from a personal note that someone has shared, and you have that blogger or that reporter say, hey, get with me right now. Answer my call right now so that I can interview you. If I'm in the middle of a birthday celebration or time with my family, I did not sign up to be on call to defend myself constantly to rumors. So the fact, I will say that at a minimum, our chairperson has added to this just gross narrative. I now exist as this villain, which is just gross. If you watch the footage from the workshops, you will hear me fighting for working parents, saving them money, saving paraprofessionals money. So yes, I will say, I have talked with Andrea Messina with FSBA about this, and she said we're in a storming phase, and we need to get through that. It does not help Flagler schools for this to be yet another dysfunctional board. And I have remained silent so many times for the sake of peace, which has really meant that now I exist as this person who is the opposite of who I am. And Chair Massaro, I am upset by the fact that you were a part of that. You've made quotes that are just not true. So yeah, I mean that's. I will thank you for bringing that up because I do appreciate the time to be able to share a little bit about that tonight.
Ms. Conklin, you have anything to add?
I will say this. I'm disappointed that we're having this conversation publicly right now. You can laugh all you want, but we're in the middle of looking for a new leader. And we could have had this conversation during a workshop. I think it's inappropriate that we're having this conversation now while we're in the middle. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse
She
me.
has her say.
Excuse me. I think it's inappropriate as we're sitting here getting ready to do a national superintendent search that we're continuing to have this conversation on the dais. If there were concerns, they certainly could have been shared during the workshop instead of putting a show on for everyone else. I don't think that's appropriate. I think at this point in time, everybody is going to have their opinion on how this was handled or how it wasn't handled, but we are where we are. And at this point moving forward, we are going to have to all work together, whether we like it or not. And if we don't like it, we're all going to have to fake it till we make it. Because at the end of the day, how we present ourselves to this community and to this district, including children, is going to make an impact. If you are upset with the chair's comments, then you have a conversation with the chair. You're not voting on this. So it is what it is. We've decided we're going to go with Florida School Board Association. We're making a change in leadership. The majority of the board has spoken, and we will gather the community input and move forward.
With all
That's-
due respect,
So,
with all due
Ms.
respect,
Conklin,
Dr.
you know, this is a matter of something because,
Well,
This
you
is
need to
not
be
the
recognized.
forum.
You need to be
okay,
recognized.
may I have the floor, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay. We're not talking about just about any one of us here. We're talking about the board chair. Okay, when she speaks to the media on TV and she goes on her school board page, okay, it is perceived that she's speaking the voice of the board. Okay, so I think it is very relevant that we have
Well,
this
you could have had
conversation
this
tonight.
conversation in the workshop.
Whether
know
it was
exactly
here or
what
in the
you're doing
workshop,
right now.
whether it was here or in the workshop, it's still televised, as if something would have been different, Dr. Conklin.
Please.
This has to do with the conduct of our chair.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it is very appropriate that we do have this conversation here. Because there are some motions that can be made in regards to this.
Oh, I'm
So
sure.
I'm waiting I want to hear from Chair Massaro.
I'm waiting for all to finish.
And so I will yield.
Okay. First of all, when I speak to the public, especially when it's news reporters, if it's for the board, then I say I'm speaking on behalf of the board. But when I'm speaking as myself, as an individual, I always state that I'm speaking as an individual. And on all of those, I spoke as an individual, not as the board chair, because that is important. I agree with you. However, all the things you claimed I did to you, you did to her. And I find that extremely abrasive and offensive. Everything you mentioned, very offensive. The idea was to work close together as a team and build a team concept. That special meeting, you had all of your minds made up before you got here. You disregarded the public that was here, which was embarrassing, totally embarrassing to this board. Totally disregarded them. You slapped them across the face. Coming back to ask these groups that had a lot to say and say, oh, I don't think they represent my constituents. Where were your constituents? Where were they? They weren't here. And if you had so many constituents that supported everything that you did, why did you have to go to the general election and not win in the primary? I don't know. I find that difficult, too. That's a good question, isn't it?
I'm going to say this, team. I'm going to say
I
this,
was in a
team.
three-person race, Madam Chair.
If I could,
Oh.
let's remember, we are putting forward,
Here we go.
this is our board. So let's try to come back together.
I also stated that I would work with this board to do the best that we can to hire the best superintendent we can find. That's all we can do. That's all we can do.
Okay, well, I'm going to make a motion to censure the board chair for violating our procedure manual. We've already laid out everything that we feel that where you violated it, at least I have, from my position. And we can't continue to, when there's a vote that doesn't go your way, to have our board chair go out and communicate about their other board members like that. It's just not going to work. So I have a motion to censure Chair Massaro for violating our school board operating procedure manual.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any conversation?
I don't know what this means. I'll just throw
Can
that
you
out
explain what a censure is, Attorney Gavin?
Just basically, if there's a censure, it's an admonition from the remainder of the board or the board that votes in favor of it. If it is passed, that individual is to put their activities in check and make sure that they operate and comply with the procedure manual as written and/or comply with the policies and procedures that have been set forth by the board. And that would be it. It would not be a removal from the position. It is just a censure of the activity that had happened in the past.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. It doesn't matter,
Need to
Sally.
recall the vote?
It doesn't matter.
Do we need to recall the vote?
You
Doesn't matter, Sally.
have one that has not made their vote yet. Ms. Hunt has to vote.
I made my comments known. I will vote nay on this.
Okay, motion fails.
All right. Any other new business? We're up to public.
Board, actually, I just want to confirm, at this point in time, we are going out for a new superintendent. We had previously begun the process of having a master board started. It would have started about next month. We are in the process, and I wanted to let you know, we are seeking to put a stop to that until you do have a superintendent in place and until you're in a different position where you're ready to go forward with the master board. So we're removing that because your superintendent does play a role in that. So I wanted to let you know that at this time, your master board training is going to be put in abeyance for a period, if
That
that's
makes sense. Thank you,
sufficient.
Christine.
Any other new business? Okay, we're going to public comment on any item on the agenda.
All right, at this time, I would call Monica Johnson on working together.
Hi. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Did we, I mean, we were actually in the middle of old business. I had old business, but Will wanted to go, was ready to go. And then I feel like we went past new business. I had some new business and we're on public comment.
Okay, we'll go back. We
I'm
got to go
so
back to old
sorry.
business. Ms. Hunt had some old business. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to ask under old business, when we have the conversation on the books, would at that time we be able to discuss that label?
Yes, ma'am.
Would that be appropriate? Okay. And then I also have something under new business when that,
Okay, we
when
had
appropriate.
new business, so go ahead.
Okay. We all received the letter from Superintendent Middlestat regarding projected, I'm going to call it graduation rates. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to ask, again, I'm certainly, Dr. Conklin, more new to all of this than you. Is there anything we can do at this point if the state legislature does not make any changes? I'm going to share my limited knowledge of this. From what I am understanding, up to 20% of our Matanzas seniors will not be cap and gown ready by May to graduate. So they could go on to get their GED, they could go on over the summer perhaps to earn credits or pass tests in order to graduate. But we are at risk of next month 20% of Matanzas students and 17% of FPC students not walking the stage. Again, this is kind of new to me. That seems, and I understand there's some reasons why, but I'm just asking on behalf of the community and those students, are there any intervention things that are possible at this point, again, if those rules are not changed, to help our students out to get them over the finish line?
No, ma'am. That's why that letter was drafted and presented to you, so we could have some legislative support. This year's senior class, the concordance score was lifted 3 years ago. The previous senior class, there was the commissioner who made a waiver to that. So at some point, that higher bar that was established a couple of years ago needs to be met. But I think the factors for this year's senior class and all that they have transferred through their past 3-4 years, and with standards changing, the consideration to make sure that the cut score from the SAT remains as it was previous would allow the additional 67 students that we have in Flagler right now who would be qualified, and then the others to continue to try to earn that cut score. So across the state of Florida, this is not unique to Flagler schools. There's a projection that the graduation rate will drop about 10%. And Flagler, we're looking at about a 7 to 8%. So, board member, when you ask about what can we do right now, we're working with our seniors to make sure they're taking tests for the qualifying standard as it exists in board rule right now. Unless there is an addendum made to give these senior class students either a waiver or consideration for the old standards to be in play, they would have to fulfill their graduation requirements in another manner. So after graduation, it could be through summer school and come back and achieve that testing score threshold that's in existence. But if it's going to be this year, it's going to be some year that concordance score is going to be set high and remain high. It's just this year's senior class is what we're asking for. Go ahead.
Kathy, can you explain for the benefit of the community what a concordance score is so folks understand that the graduation rate is made up of students who come in, go through all 4 years, they take all the required credits that they have to, but that there is a score on the, well, it's now, was the FSA, which is, this is what the challenge is. They came into high school under the FSA. It's no longer the
Right.
FSA.
So if I can use our two seniors sitting right over here, your sophomore year, you were taking your classes perhaps in a different manner than you've ever done before as a student. But during your sophomore year, you were required to take the 10th grade ELA test assessment and hit a certain score that would meet and satisfy your graduation requirements. If you did not achieve that score, another option was to take the SAT. The SAT concordance score at that time was 430. The state law had been set to 470, don't quote me, looking out there for my team to see if I can get those numbers right. So no student in the state of Florida right now has had to graduate with that 470 new concordance score that was previously established. This year's senior class, you and all your classmates have to hit that threshold. That's a big lift.
So they could be straight A students, but if they don't score the appropriate concordance score, they cannot graduate.
Correct. They'll fulfill all of their graduation requirements, have their proper GPA, but have not fulfilled their assessment requirements.
And I think that's really the question for me is I like to kind of take life as it is, not as I want it to be. And so I think about our students who have perhaps plans for this summer, summer jobs or whatnot. And so this may be I'm bringing this up under new business just because we don't know where this is headed, with legislation. And so I want, whether it's policy or whatnot, I want us to have, I want our seniors to be as successful as possible. And so not just for this graduating class, but if this continues, could this be something that's happening 23, 24? Superintendent Middlestat, you mentioned, you're working with those seniors. If any parents are listening tonight, if they are worried for their student, would they reach out to the principal at their school? Who would they reach out to for better support?
Both our principals know who the students are who are in jeopardy of not achieving their graduation requirements. And so those conversations are ongoing. They've been utilizing some other, you're pulling up the, So we are very much engaged in making sure we're affording our kids every opportunity to meet that threshold. One of the new things you mentioned earlier, FAST, is the new assessment. This year's senior class is not eligible to take FAST. So they're under the old guidelines. That's part of the stretch right now is to let's be creative in allowing our students to demonstrate they are prepared for life after high school and to have achieved high standards in the state of Florida in earning their diploma. They're just in that transitional group where things have changed over time, and the challenge of their 9th and 10th and 11th, and now their senior years have been very unprecedented, if I could use that word again. Probably overkill on that word, but that's where we are.
Thank you. Obviously concerning that, 20%, roughly per school.
I
So
think,
thank you.
in speaking with my colleagues across the state, that's one particular high school. Again, these are projections where we are now. Flagler, 7-8% as a dip. We're in a much better place than many other counties. So I kudos to what our teachers and building leaders are doing in the classroom to help our students overcome those hurdles. But until the end of the finish line is established and they know what their cut score has to be to achieve their diploma, it's still unknown.
Thank you for speaking to that. Thank you for the time.
Is that it then?
Yeah, thanks for me, yeah.
All right, we're back now to public comment. So who is first on public comment?
Monica Johnson.
Ms. Johnson.
Hi again. Some of you already know me and know that I get a bit nervous speaking, so I've written down what I wanted to say. It is the fashionable thing in today's society to hate and distrust and fear anyone who doesn't think like you do, to assume they're out to get you, or at least that they're on the wrong side. I wanted to remind all of you today that the school board is all on the same side, the side of our community's children. That's why every single one of you, all of you, ran for your position. Whatever background you came from, whatever previous experience you might have, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Whether or not you agree with each other on everything is also irrelevant. Your reason for being up there on the dais is the same as everyone else's. You want what's best for our children. It looks like something different for each one of you. It does. That's normal. God help us all if suddenly everybody starts thinking exactly alike. That would scare the heck out of me, honestly. But it doesn't mean that any one of you is better than any other, or knows any more than any one of you. The school board is a group of positions for members of the community to be able to step up and do something to help our most valuable and treasured resource, our children. School board members interact with all community members to make sure schools are running the best they can. You don't get to choose to meet with only the ones who agree with you. Choosing to only listen to the ones who agree with everything you think and feel wouldn't make you very well-rounded or open to any other points of view. It would cause the school system to stagnate, never to grow or to change. It would also make you inherently prejudiced. So why would you treat other members of the school board that way? The whole point of there being more than one of you is so that different thoughts and ideas can be heard from people of different walks of life with different reasonings. Instead of working so hard to tear down the ones you don't like, insistent that you'll never be able to change their minds because they're just awful people, why not work with them to come up with solutions that everyone can accept? It means compromise. It means change. It means acceptance that not everyone thinks alike, and that's okay. It never means snarky comments, rudeness, belittling others, or trying to make others think less of them. Working together will make things much easier on all of you, and might even make our schools run a lot better in the process. I found this quote on the National School Boards Association webpage. Most school board members are elected by people in their community to represent their values, views, and desires for the public schools in their districts. So please try to remember that you guys are elected by us because we like what you represent. So when you tear each other apart because you don't like each other's values and thoughts, you're tearing those who voted for you as well. Thank you.
The next speaker is Leslie Johnson regarding choices.
Hi there. Thank you for allowing me to speak. In addition to some of the things that have already been spoken tonight, I was very disappointed when I saw that video by the chair. I was disappointed because I know the chair to be very proactive for kids. And I am knowledgeable of the fact that a couple of years ago, you folks had a workshop with a couple of other former school board members with whom you had some problems. Didn't agree, didn't work out. You tried hard, but you had to be taught how to do it. It didn't happen miraculously. It's like a divorce. When you have kids involved, we have to work for the kids, not ourselves. And when that video came out, I was offended on a personal level because you threw me under the bus. Not only were other members of the school board thrown under the bus, but you threw all of us who elected each and every single one of you for particular reasons. Because we liked what you stood for. We liked your values. We felt that you would work hard for our kids. That's why we voted you, not because y'all would get along. We have to learn how to get along, just like a divorced parents have to get along for the kids. That's what we're here for, the kids. And I don't believe that any single one of you would be sitting here had it not been for your deepest desire to work for our kids. So go, you folks who took that workshop, learn from it and help our new members learn how to work together. And we don't do that by bullying. We don't do that by throwing each other under the bus. We don't do that by disparaging one another. We can't. That does not inspire trust. Airing out your dirty laundry about your coworkers is not a good thing. You don't get to pick your coworker. You don't get to pick the ones that you'd like to work with because we elected you. You didn't choose. We chose you. So please, please find common ground. That common ground is the kids. Okay? We need you to be the leaders for our kids. And we don't need to be beaten up or to beat each other up. So I thank you very much for hearing me.
Next speaker is Lisa Perkins, Chair's monologue.
Good evening. I'm here to speak about that infamous video as well. It's quite ironic. I'm here to speak the same night that our superintendent has for strategic plan spotlight communication, respectful communication. And we had a former person get up here and speak and say, mention the guiding principles of this of the school district, and one of them is trust and respect for all. You know, and to get on there on Facebook of all places and start disparaging your colleagues, and like others have said, these are people that we elected. I must agree, they really should have censored you. They really should have. You know, it's time to stop playing games here. Our test scores are horrible. You know, this is not some low socioeconomic zone. We don't have a huge immigration population. You know, what gives? I don't understand. Why are our scores so low? You know, it doesn't make any sense. The parents, I'm surprised there's not more here tonight. I think people have just given up on you guys, to tell you the truth, given up on Flagler County schools. And I frankly don't blame them. And it's time for more private schools to come into this community, more charter schools to come into this community and start taking money from you guys, because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing with the money. We have too much bullying going on, and the kids just aren't learning the way they should be learning, you know? And to allow, you know, we got rid of one teacher before for, you know, catering to a specific group, and to see a bulletin board behind a video that went national saying it's a safe space for a small group of kids, that's horrible. All the schools should be a safe space for all of our children, not just based on your gender identity or your color, or anything. All the kids deserve to be safe in our schools. And I say, shut you guys down. No more government schools. You guys don't belong in the business of schooling.
Next speaker is Brad West regarding Nowhere Girls decision.
Hi, my name's Brad West. I was a part of the district review committee for the book, The Nowhere Girls. And I first want to thank the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and staff for their time and effort in managing the process, and my fellow community members who participated and invested hours of time to objectively evaluate the book. With that said, I'm also here to respectfully I disagree with the decision to overturn the staff and community's voices in 3 committees to retain the book and with no explanation. So I'm here appealing to you all to consider taking up the matter and evaluate the decision that was made. I thought about Grace, Rosina, Aaron, and the others in the book, what they would do in the face of injustice to our students and to our community. They wouldn't sit down, they wouldn't do nothing when something was wrong. They would try. So I hope you all take the time to seriously reflect on the Library Awareness Month proclamation you read earlier. Protect and free access to material and for students to learn and think critically is how we protect liberty for our students and for our community. So thank you.
Next speaker is Joel Woolbright, former board member, new business.
Good evening. Having been a resident in this county since 1989 and given my life to the children of Flagler County, I can't stop coming and speaking to you because I have to make a difference. I have to have you hear the people. And what I want you to know is that every one of you are voted by the people of Flagler County. And sometimes when you're fresh and new, you have a better perspective of what's out there because people are after you when you just went through a campaign. Sometimes when you're on the board for a number of years, you get in a silo and you have the same, and when I was on the campaign, people would say, Jill, how's your campaign going? Oh, it's great. Everybody I talked to is voting for me. Well, Sally won. That's a silo. That's where you're in the same group of people and you hear the same thing over and over. Board members, you need to get outside of those same people and you need to hear from other people. Yes, 30 out of 32 came and spoke in favor of Ms. Middlestat, and that was a hard decision. But I want to tell you, but they were 30 people from the same groups of people, and they were here to pressure Sally. They were people that supported her. They even came and wore their surge shirts. The people that talked her into running against me, they wore those shirts and paraded them up here in front of her to pressure her to vote their way. I watched it. There are people, Moms for Liberty are in Tallahassee, they're not here, and there are people that used to come, and then their name would be in the liberal bloggers' paper. It's amazing. Things in the email end up in the blogger. There's more than one cabal in Flagler County. But I'm begging you to please just stop. If you don't agree with how anyone votes, it is not your job to disparage. We all make mistakes. We should apologize and go on. I'm begging you to stop. It is not proper to go on your public official school board page and disparage 3 school board members and being the person that begged those 3 to sign up for master boards. Give the money back. Don't spend it if this is how it's going to go, because you're not going to make master boards again. And I have a few seconds about the graduation rate. Yes, it's difficult times all across the state. But I happen to be in contact with many school boards across the state still in the line of work that I'm doing. And I'm here to tell you, yes, they dropped. But what we're not talking about, and everybody's loud red flag should be going off, is Matanzas is looking to drop 14 points. FPC's looking to drop 3. Usually Matanzas way outscored FPC. Something's awry there. Look into it.
Mike Cochiola, comments about Chair Massaro.
Oops. Name's Mike Cochiola. The discussion you just had about our chairperson was appalling to me because I'm convinced that if anybody is going to be censured around here, it should be the members of this board who probably colluded with each other and they should be held accountable for violations of the Sunshine Law. I will say that it's clear that, Madam Superintendent, you had no chance. There was nothing you could do, no high scores, nothing you could have done, nothing you could have brought to this board and got those members to vote for you. They would not, because they are fighting their own culture wars, and you don't fit in their culture wars. You can tell by the discussion of some of the members that just stood up. The culture war that's being fought here in Flagler and in Florida and in this country is there are people in this audience, there are people in Flagler County, there are people in Florida and across the country whose goal is to degrade public schools and public teachers and force more money and more students into the private sector, where 82% of private sector schools are religious-based. They are affiliated with religion, and that's the goal. And you have to understand, this is the war that's being fought in this board right here. You may think it's about the kids. It is not. It is about values that I don't understand, but they hold those values. But they're culture warriors. They're called Christian nationalists. And that's what we're fighting against here. So I'm going to recommend to the remaining board members who may be listening to me that you stand firmly on your values and don't compromise on your values. You may get outvoted, but you walk out of here with your head high, and you can be assured that if the culture warriors, get what they want, which is a superintendent that is more amenable to their culture war, and get board members who are more amenable to their culture war, that you will see the public school system in Flagler County just simply go bad. So, thank you.
Next speaker is Jennifer Valle on board issues.
So I just wanted to speak. I wasn't planning on it, but since what happened occurred, I decided I would. I agree with what she said, and I know that a lot of people do. So to discount how we feel, I think, is again another slap in our face. So yeah, I do feel like you guys completely discounted our opinions, and you did have your mind made up when you came in that day. That was pretty much all I had to say on that. But I also did want to bring up somebody from here had offered to read the book Nowhere Girls Together, and I did email that person and accepted that. So I haven't heard back, but whenever you're ready, I would love to do that. Okay, thank you.
Next speaker is Geraldine Denny on new business.
Thank you so very much for the time today. I just want to express my extreme disappointment in the lack of professionalism that some of you have displayed by way of social media and various news outlets. You know, Flagler School should be and it is a premier school. And the school board members should be behaving like leaders of those premier students. You should be premier leaders. And I know most of you, and I've worked with you outside of the school system, and whether I voted for you or not, I trusted all of you to model those good behaviors on and off the dais and to be an example to our students. And the example that has been displayed in social media has been embarrassing. I am embarrassed to see some of you consistently air your personal grievances and problems with each other on social media. It is complete Monday madness. It's madness is what it is. And I'm just disappointed in that. Also, I'm extremely disappointed in the drop. Yes, I understand the zoning, but come on, graduation rate, 5 of my 7 children graduated from Flagler County Schools. 2 from FPC, 2 from Matanzas High School, and 1 her senior year went to both schools. And I am completely and utterly aware of the lengths that principals go through to make sure students graduate. 14 points is a drop. It's not a slip, it's not a boo-boo. There's a problem there. I am grateful to the time that our current superintendent have devoted to our students, but I am eternally hopeful that new leadership is coming, one that is qualified to take the position to lead all the employees and to lead and to help guide in and usher good vision, someone with vision, because there is no vision here. So I'm grateful to that. Thank all of you for your vote and for your time and for all the things you have done for Flagler Schools, and I pray God's blessings over all of you.
Next speaker is Michael Feldbauer.
Thank you for the opportunity to come speak to you today, Madam Chairman, board members. I feel I'm a little different up here today. I'm here to celebrate what you've done tonight. It's been a long process, and I appreciate all the work you've done, and I'm talking about redoing the medical portion of the school thing, allowing Narcan to be presented in our school to possibly save lives in the future. We all hope that we never have to use it, but I think in this particular case, our board has taken a lead in the whole state. If I'm not mistaken, we'll be the second school district in the state to actually have it, but the first school district in the state to actually have a written policy that I imagine other districts will look at very closely and copy to get that into our school system to possibly save lives. So I'm here tonight to thank you for what you've done. And I appreciate it, and I know there was a lot of hard work that went into it. Ms. Gavin, I know you were initially, you spent a lot of time with it, and thank you very much. So to all of you tonight, from me, from the Flagler County Drug Court Foundation, who has been the promoter of this particular policy, we thank you, and thank you, and thank you, and you will be thanked in the future if it ever happens to be used. So we do appreciate it. I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but thank you for what you've done.
Next speaker is Renee DeAngelis.
Good evening, everybody. If you don't already know, I'm the Narcan administrator for the Flagler County Drug Court Foundation. And the reason I became involved was my daughter, my husband, my daughter, Savannah, she was our younger daughter, died from a drug overdose that included fentanyl in 2017. And in 2018, I became something of an activist, my husband along with me, because we did not want to see other families go through the devastation we went through. And now we've gotten to this point where we have Narcan will be available within the schools. You guys don't know what it means to me. I feel like it's like the biggest achievement of my life. My daughter would have been 29 years old in 3 days, and she thanks you. And I hope this serves as a catalyst for the rest of the state and our country to do the same things in all the school systems, and I believe it will. And maybe it'll start to make a change with this epidemic that we have. And a silver lining is you voted on it unanimously, and it can be done. So thank you all.
Kathy Barnett, Book Bites.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I wanted to talk about, I guess, more ask some questions. I know you can't answer me, but maybe we could funnel this out to the public. Basically, I just want to understand what the policy is for when there's fights in school, discipline, when there's a threat, and the school gets, nothing comes from our schools. We hear it from social media, from other kids and posting, and I'm not really sure. It kind of drives you crazy as a parent when you're sitting at home and your kids are texting you like, what's going on? But nothing comes from Flagler County Schools. We're not asking to know what the students or who was involved or the names or the individuals or whatever. We just want to know that the situation was handled. This is what happened. This is how we handled it, and everybody's safe. So I don't know the ins and outs of why the sheriff says stuff and you guys don't say stuff, or I guess we all need to know what's going on. And if you could let us know so that everyone can be calm, that would be great. I also want to understand basically the discipline, like, is there any consequences for these kids that continue to do this over and over and over again? They seem to just show up again. So I wanted to talk about that. And then I heard a couple people talking about the book process. I agree, we need to readdress it, and I'm glad you guys are putting that back up there. But I find it quite funny that they're up here after it goes through the whole process, and either you guys decide or the superintendent decides that they're not going to go forward with it. And every book has been basically voted to remain in our schools, and some of them are really bad. But so I thought it was comical that they're up here saying after how many books that were challenged, that we all challenged them. Parents read and did the same thing and went to the meetings too, and we didn't, have a fit about it. You guys decided to keep it, and we dealt with it. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that's it. But I would really like to know more about the fights and how we handle that going forward. Oh, and I saw something about a Rise Up school on the docs from the last school board meeting, but I'm not really sure. I try to find out some information about it. Is it an alternative school? Is that a place for kids that can go that we have disruptive kids all the time? Is that an alternative? I don't know. Maybe we could talk about it. Oh, maybe a workshop with the resource officers that are in our schools every day. Maybe we could talk to them and find out better ways of handling what we're doing in our schools, because they deal with the kids. They know the kids, they know what's going on, and they know the troublemakers, and we just keep them coming back in. So that's not fair to all the other kids that are trying to get an education. So thank you for your time, and thank you very much for representing us.
That concludes public comment.
Moving on now to closing comments. We'll start with our students, the far end. What's happening?
Okay, so I wanted to talk about the Student Summit that is happening April 29th. It's a great opportunity for all students. So if you are available to attend, I would highly encourage you to do so. Students who attend will be able to get 10 hours of community service. And then also I would like to talk about all things FPC. So tonight we have a choir showcase. I hope they are doing really well. And I just want to say, yes, that's all. Yeah.
I would also like to highlight our Teen Town Hall Summit that's going to be happening here at the GSBU building. Like she said, April 29th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We have many important topics we're going to be talking about, including bullying, texting, and dating violence. And then we have Let's Make a Truce, No More Substance Misuse, Implicit Bias, Emotional Well-Being, and Know the Law Escape Room. I think this is going to be a very beneficial event for all the students in Flagler County. And I would also like to say that I'm very proud of our board for putting Narcan in our schools, because as much as we do a lot of drug misuse prevention through classes, our Wellness Wednesdays, our teen town halls, it's always just good to be prepared in case something happens, rather than look back and say, oh, we could have done something to prevent that. So thank you so much. At our last board meeting, I know there was a lot of emotion, and it was difficult to speak to where I fully stand. I've heard multiple times now about how 30 people came out in support of our superintendent. However, 30 people do not represent the entirety of the 120,000 people who live in Flagler County, nor the majority of the people who overwhelmingly voted for us to represent them. And they do not have to be here because they voted for us to represent them. This is not about one group of people trying to influence a vote. Everyone equally has the freedom of speech to say where they're at and where they stand. And many of the people who came out to speak in support of the superintendent also came from their own special interest groups as well. As I have mentioned before, we have a violence problem in our schools, and while it may not be our superintendent's fault, I would like to personally see a firmer hand on that. The education of the majority of our children cannot suffer over a few children with bad behavior. This may be a problem across the state of Florida as a whole, but I believe that in Flagler we can set the example. And Chair, I know you mentioned that you were speaking as yourself, and I understand that, but I work for a large company. I've always worked in big companies, and if I were to go out publicly and talk about my coworkers, it would be inappropriate and I would be fired. That's how it works in the world. Jennifer, I would love a respectful conversation. I'm always open to that. I've already said this to you, though. It's difficult when you continue to slander us on social media, so I'm not so sure I want to take time away from my family to meet with someone who talks about me, but maybe we can find a common ground. All right, my final thoughts for all: you get more bees with honey, not by attacking others, not by being rude and condescending, not by creating and writing gossip. That's not true. Many times it's much easier to get our point across and reach others not in what we say, but how we say it.
Okay, so in closing, I'd like to echo the comments of Ms. Chong here in regards to the makeup of the room that was here that night. Yes, those people were very passionate about what they were here for, and I love their passion, right? But the people that voted for me knew they didn't have to be here because they sent me to do that for them. They could stay home with their families. I came here. I was elected to do the work. And I voted in a way that I felt was the best direction for Flagler schools in my heart and in my mind. Whether you agree with that, that wasn't a flippant decision. And I really do believe that each one up here did their due diligence and came to their own conclusion on what was the best move forward. And I am very hopeful that we will continue to work together. I'm a forgiving person. I don't hold grudges. And I will say right now that I forgive Chair Massaro for my perception of what happened, okay? And we can move on. We have done great things together since November 8th, when or the 22nd, I think we were all sworn in. And we've done some great things. We've worked well together. We've had good communication. But for some reason, this vote was the one that started a division between us. So I know that we can work together, especially there is common ground. We've worked very well on student safety, right? That has been big. Look at the Narcan vote. That was a big deal. I mean, that is a great achievement for Flagler schools to have an extra layer of safety. I hope to God we never have to use that Narcan, but if we need it, it is there. And our staff is going to be prepared on how to administer it because of the policies that we unanimously brought in today. So with that said, I just want my fellow board members to know that from the District 2 seat at the very least, I do not hold any grudge going forward, and my mission is for us to all work together. Thank you.
Ms. Hunt.
I will share a couple things tonight. First, it's come up tonight and earlier today, this idea of us moving forward as a board. And I want to speak to comments that I hear time and time again about bullying and fighting and threats and communication. And because I was elected by the community, I want to share that I know I have certainly, both in workshops and also in private executive session, I have very much tried to influence and impact on these different concerns and have not been successful so far. But I want to share that because I have heard from so many people who are talking about some of these things that are taking away from the education of their students, of their children. I think it is something that we need to figure out, at least to improve. And I hope going forward that when we bring something up in a workshop and there's consensus, it ends up on an agenda and that it's talked about. My hope going forward is that when we have executive session, we have conversation and instead of being talked to and talked at. So I think there's a lot of really good things ahead for Flagler schools, and I'm happy to be a part of that. The other thing that I will share is I'm going to admit I'm just disappointed that a blogger to sell ad space has created this narrative as if I have completely 180 changed who I am. I will tell you the vote last week, my husband didn't know how I was going to vote. My best friend didn't know how I was going to vote. I didn't know how I was going to vote. If I'm being perfectly honest, the conversation was cut short. I thought we were going to have a conversation, not just present. And I was very much open to that conversation. And so I can't control, so many people have now come here and told me who I am, told me what was in my head, who I am, what I've become. I have been bullied. I've been threatened. You guys want to know why politicians make the decisions a lot of times they make is they don't have political courage, because this sucks, okay? It's really hard to evaluate a situation, really do your work, and to be open to different ideas and different solutions, and to have people just bully you and harass you. And I get it. I'm proud to be a strong woman, to make the decisions that, again, we each represent, we're one vote, and we have to vote based on our observations, based on communication with people from across the community. We each are entrusted with that one vote. I think Will spoke to this. I mean, that he took that very seriously. I took the vote very seriously. I don't know where we go from here as a board. I don't know where we go from here as a community, but I think I spoke to this at the last board meeting. This town doesn't work if we have to always have a villain. If there is absolutely no trust, that if someone votes a certain way, they must be part of a conspiracy. They're breaking sunshine law. I hope we can attract and retain a really amazing superintendent who can lead us. And I hope that we as a board can come together for that process. So thank you to everybody tonight who came out for sharing your thoughts, and I look forward to the future of Flagler County Schools. Thank you.
First, I want to say probably the best part of, well, probably the number of years that I've been on the board and we've adopted different policies and we've done different things. The Narcan policy is probably one of the most important things that we may have done. And I'm sorry for your loss, and but I appreciate your advocacy, and I thank all of you for bringing the policy forward. And you should be very proud of yourself for bringing that to us as a recommendation. I pray to God we never need it, but if we do, we now have it. And we wouldn't have had it if it weren't for the three of you coming forward and educating us and sharing your story. So again, I'm just so very sorry for your loss, but I thank you so very much for bringing the policy forward to us. There's been a lot said about this board and the decisions that have been made. And what I'll say is that we have a tremendous opportunity to share this incredible community with an educational leader in the coming future. Superintendent Middlestat, I know you know I've enjoyed and appreciated working with you. You've come in and you've untangled many of bowls of tangled spaghetti, and you've helped straighten so many things out. The decision has been made, and I hope that our board, I know, will pull together to focus on what's important, and that is for our students. We have a beautiful community, an incredible, incredible, beautiful community with amazing educators and teachers and school administrators and directors and support staff. This is a dream of a place for someone to come in to lead us if we allow ourselves to be led. And so I think we have a responsibility to come together as a team and share the potential that this community and school district has. And then we need to work to support that and get out of the way. And so can't go back and rewrite history, but you can lean into what the future might be. And so I will always be grateful for my time working with Superintendent Middlestat. She's not going anywhere anytime soon right now. And I am grateful that she's remained steadfast with her team to stay focused on finishing the school year out strong and doing what we need to do that's best for kids. So with that, I'll conclude my comments, Madam Chair.
Okay, let me first start by going back to the special meeting because I just want to explain something to my colleagues. I did end the meeting early, but that was under advisement for safety. That's why. It wasn't halfway. That was because things got really out of hand after the last vote, and I didn't want it to escalate because I have been at this board and it's been very frightening being up here. And I didn't want anything to happen. It's simple. I mean, that was the simple reason, because I feared for all of our safety. So that was determined beforehand, before we actually did it. We knew we were going to have to do it after that happened. So that was not just my idea. It was discussed. Okay, couple things. I get very frustrated when I've spent 40-plus years in education. Okay, 20 of those years in Florida education. Education in Florida, and probably anywhere in this particular time, is very, very difficult. It is not like any company, it's not like any organization. It is totally, totally unique. And you don't really understand it till you live it, or you spend a lot of time learning it. And I know Dr. Conklin has been there, and she understands it too. And I get frustrated even more when I hear that I know so much about it in 3-4 months. I spent 40 years and I'm still learning. You learn all the time. And for taking that position, I'm sorry if I offended all of you, and that was really not my intent. I was angry, and that was my anger coming out, and I apologize for that, because I know we can work together. We need to work together. Okay? If we're going to move this district anywhere forward, I mean, we, over the last couple years, Superintendent Middlestat, you can't believe the things that she's done to improve this district, because she doesn't stand there and shout it and brag about it, just does it. That's her nature. She doesn't expect to be pat on the back. She comes to work every day and does her job. Those close to her, Ms. Conklin and myself, because we've worked with her the longest, we know that. We've seen it. We understand it. We understand how the unions see it, and we appreciate that tremendously because it's important. And when, knowing how this district has had a rotating basis for superintendents, it's quite frightening. Every 3 years, we change superintendents, every 3 years. And anybody coming in here should probably be petrified, because in 3 years, there'll be a new board, okay? And my guess is they're going to come in and they're going to want changes too. And that's scary. It takes us backwards every time. We go back academically. We go back in our departments. It slows us down. And these are the concerns that I have. And I've seen it too many times in Flagler County. And that's where my head is. Because it's frustrating to see that slip and slide. Our staff is working and they're doing great things. And we want our kids to succeed. We want them to do well. And every time you turn around, we're getting big changes that changes everything for all of them. That's what the problem is with our seniors. These changes come down from Tallahassee. They think it's great up there, and yet how it affects us is difficult. And we have to make changes, and the kids have to make changes, because we want them to graduate. We want them to be successful. They're our future. Heck, they'll be taking care of a lot of us. And that's the truth. So we want them to be the best that they possibly can be. Needless to say, we can do better. I will continue to try to do better, and I will expect this board to do the same, to work together. We've got our students graduating soon. These two ladies will be on to bigger and better things, and I know that. We have a new superintendent to hire, and I just pray to God every night that we, and I've said that, pray to God every night right here, that we have some good candidates, good, solid candidates, because it's not an easy job. But we're all going to do the best we can and service the people and the kids that we need to. And I'll end my comment with that. Ms. Middlestat.
Thank you, Board Chair. If you haven't already been told this, let me just send a huge appreciation out to our volunteers. This month is Volunteer Appreciation Month, and as an organization and serving our students and all that we do on a daily basis, we could not do what we do without them giving their times and talents to our teachers in the classroom, helping volunteer, our students out there in the community doing various projects that you see to enhance our organization. So just a big shout out. It is Volunteer Appreciation Month. In closing, I always lead by example, and I have the highest standards and the deepest commitment to every single student every single day. The last day of school for students is May 26th. And I know that every employee in Flagler Schools joins me each morning when they wake up to do their best to elevate excellence for Flagler Schools, so we know our kids have all they need to be successful when they leave us. So with that, I'll conclude, and we just got to keep marching forward. Thank you.
All right, so we're going ahead and we're going to actually adjourn this meeting as of 7:44. Thank you, and have a safe trip home.